Voch Boisai. This might be the last week that Achenu B'nai England will be able to join us much as Shabbos. We try to delay it as much as possible for them, but next week it's already, as far as I understand, it's like 15 minutes every week. We're not going to be able to delay it that much.
What I want is not important. They need.
Yeah, Torah is important. Sponsored by Moshe Weiss, Reb Harav Agoy Reb Moshe Weiss. Love this guy. Big Talmud Chacham. leilu nishmas Shlomo Yehuda ben Moshe Shmuel Olav Shalom. Sponsored by two New Yorkers that are not on right now. Anonymously by Kalman of the Five Towns in honor of my wife Orlene, my Bashert, and ezer kenegdoi on our 9th wedding anniversary. Is this supposed to be tonight? I hope. By Eli Dyckman, leilu nishmas Hendel Miriam, Bashert, Mordechai, Duvid, my wife's grandmother who passed away yesterday, not from COVID. By Chaim Farkish. This is Dov's brother. Remember Dov, the Chazan from Melbourne. Dear Eli, I'm writing to you from Tel Aviv, Ir HaKodesh. We'll be happy to know there are also Tayir Yidden who are enjoying your Daf Yomi shir. I was introduced to your shir by my brother Dov in Melbourne, Australia, and thoroughly enjoy it. I wish to especially thank you for your word on the Chol Asher L'Rei'echa, which was credited as per attached. L'chaim. You already popped it open? It's for Shabbos, my friend. I gave Gary a bottle. It was a mistake. Doyle was going to be drinking now. Wow. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaroi. L'chaim. That's right, it's other. So, Reb Chaim Farkish sent me the link to the YouTube. I don't know how to even say it. Maybe if you search under his name, Chaim Farkas. So he said over the Vart, V'chol Shelayma, and he said it better than I said it over. It was beautiful the way he said it over. This is from David Levy. Rebelli, big fan of your shir. I've been on board since early brachas, mostly on the app. I just went over a guy. I said, okay, you guys started from brachas, so you're 400 daf into Shas. I went over a guy. I said, since you didn't join us when I asked you to join, you just missed 1,095 daf, because that was the 3-year anniversary. 1,000, if you would have joined 1,000 daf, you could join today. So I don't have to come to you in 3 years from now and tell you that you missed another 1,000 daf. Big fan of your share. Been on board since early brachas, mostly on the app. Would love to do Zoom, but it's too late, early. We live in Woodmere. Daven nets at the Aguda in Farakwe. I used to daven there as a kid in the Aguda, across the street from the Whitechapel. The 6-minute drive is perfect to listen to your pre-shir announcements, as long as the shir is uploaded. Then I learned the shir before the Nets minion begins. Perfect way to begin the day. Baruch Hashem, we just married off our twin daughters who are living in Yerushalayim. Our son Eretz Yisrael plans on going to yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael soon. And they want to join them in Eretz Yisrael. Can you recommend somebody to speak to besides Nefesh B'Nefesh? They can understand the pros, cons of Aliyah versus just going and living on a student visa. I'm laughing because I didn't speak to Nefesh B'Nefesh. I didn't do anything. It was a 2-week process from the time that we even thought about coming to Eretz Yisrael to the time we moved was exactly 14 days. Grabbed the suitcases and ran. If you start speaking to Nefesh B'Nefesh, it'll take you years. Shkarach for all you do, Kol Tuv David. I don't know anybody. Anybody know who to speak to? We'll have to, who? Donnie Fine.
He does real estate. He's a big Zionist.
Oh, Donnie Fine does real estate. He's a Zionist. Well, he's not such a Zionist, but okay, yeah. Donnie Fine. But it's a good idea to start with Donnie Fine. He does real estate. There's a lot of guys in the share that do real estate. Hill Abrams, who else does real estate? A bunch of guys. All right, Rabbi Isai, here we go. Today is Daf Pei Dalid. A shaila to think about before we get to it in the Gemara. Is there a problem chewing on bones? Any sort of ezer. Could you think of any ezer whatsoever? People eat bones all the time, no? From the chalm, from the this, from the chicken. Is there an ezer? We're going to see that according to Shmuel Rizovsky, perhaps it's an ezer. Huh? We're going to see. We're going to see soon. Huh? Not lumdus, no, not at all. Very, very simple. Shmuel Rizovsky, the Rashiva of Panovich, but he's very... So we're holding Daf Amud Beis, like 12 lines from the bottom, 10 lines from the bottom. Chol, Tes Zayin. So what happened was, we had in the Mishnah that if you have noisar, bones, gidin, when do you burn it? You burn it right after Yontif, because you can't burn on Yontif. So you burn it on the following day. on Shisha Asar. Now, if Shisha Asar falls out on Shabbos, it doesn't push off Shabbos. So what do? Following day. Ask the Gemara, why can't it push off Shabbos? V'amai, neisi asay, v'yit chelois asa. The mitzvah to burn it should push off the lois asa of Yantif, of... Why can't you just push off Yantif? Why can't you burn noisar on Yantif? Omar Chizkiya. V'chein tana debei Chizkiya Omar Kro. Right? All through Shas. Esa doicha lois asa. The mitzvah of burning it should overcome the ezer of stam fire on Yantif that's not l'tzorich oichel nefesh. Omar Chizkiya v'chein tana debei Chizkiya Omar Kro lois asiru mimenu ad boiker. In case you don't want to look in the Gemara, you can look over here. It's much more colorful. So it says ad boiker, and then it says ad boiker a second time, the same pasuk. Now, if you just look at the pasuk, we're going to use this for later as well. There's an ezer of noisar to leave the meat over into the morning. And then what do you do with the noisar? You burn it. Says the Gemara, but the ad boiker is extra. It could have just said, if you left it ad boiker, beish tisarev, ad boiker beish tisroifu. Shein tamad loymar ad boiker, mat tamad loymar ad boiker. Why twice? Litin loy boiker sheini lisrifasoi, to tell you that here's an exception to the rule. Typically, you have esed doicha loisasa. The Torah is telling you, no, there's no esed doicha loisasa here. You're not going to push off Yantif to burn it. You are going to wait that Yantif doesn't get pushed off to burn it. Abaya Omar Kro Oilas Shabbos b'Shabbat. We had this in the Masechta already, that the Torah tells us that there's only one exception to the rule. What do you burn on a Shabbos? An oila of Shabbos. The musaf that comes every Shabbos gets burnt on Shabbos. And that's it. But not a weekday oila, and certainly not a puzzle carbon. That's what we're talking about, something that's puzzle. We're talking about noisar. If you can't even put an oila that you brought on Friday onto the Mizbeach on Shabbos, it doesn't get pushed. It's an oila. Kachim. Which, by the way, somebody was telling me that I said yesterday that a chatas is shechted in kachi kadashim. I went back, I didn't see it. I remember pointing, pnim is the heichal. I might have said, if somebody heard that, I might have said kachi kachim, that a chatas is kachi kachim versus kachi kalim. I don't know, maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Somebody said I made a blooper. Went back, minute 20 to 22. It's mamish, mufurish, I don't say it. Okay. I make bloopers all the time, but that happens. I don't like to be accused for bloopers. And also I said, if I make a blooper, go to my wife. You can't come directly to me. It's not, right? We said. Okay. Okay, so you don't bring the oila from the weekday and burn it on Yantif. That doesn't push off. Rav Amar Amakro, hu levadoi ye'asa lochem. So we have the pasuk, the famous pasuk. We dealt with this pasuk a number of times. This is the pasuk that tells us that you're allowed to cook on Yantif. Oichel nefesh, ye'achel lechol nefesh. Hu levado ye'asa lochem. That's it. Says Rava, hu levado ye'asa lochem. Hu v'loy machshirov. You're allowed to push off Shabbos for important things. Let's say for Yantif, for food. But to make the pot, you can't. On Yantif. Hu v'loy machshirov levadoi v'loy mila shaloi bizmano haba mekav v'choimer. So when you have to do a bris milah on Shabbos, you can push off Shabbos for bris milah if the baby is born 8 days earlier. But if the baby is born 9 days earlier, Rashi gives examples, interesting examples. If a ger, or you were forced to, whatever the reason is, you didn't do the bris milah, so you don't push off Shabbos. Now, why would I think that you push off Shabbos? So there's a kav choimer. It goes like this, very simple. If you want to start this way, you can start from the end. Milah pushes off tzaras. That means if there's a tzaras on the bris milah, you cut off the tzaras. You're not allowed to cut off tzaras. A bris milah pushes off tzaras. Tzaras pushes off avodah. In other words, if there's no kohanim in the world, and the one kohen available has tzaras, so it pushes off avodah. In other words, you don't do the avodah. The tzaras is stronger than avodah. But avodah pushes off Shabbos. We know you do perform the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash on Shabbos. So milah, which is stronger than Tzaras, which Tzaras is stronger than Avodah, and Avodah is stronger than Shabbos, Mila should certainly push off Shabbos when it's Shaloi Bizmano. Bizmano, of course it pushes off. But I'm saying there should be a Kavachomer that even on the 9th, 10th day, Mila should push off Shabbos, Kamashmal on this Pasuk, Hu Levadoi, it doesn't push off. So Mela, any mitzvah that's not Bizmano, Mila Shaloi Bizmano, or the Sreifa, Shaloi Bizmano, then it doesn't push off Yontif. Rav Ashi Omar, Shabbosain, there's a word Shabbosain that tells us you have to keep Shabbos, you have to keep Yontif. Shabbosain the Yontif Asehu. So it adds another assay. What was your old question? You have an assay versus a lois assay. Guess what? It's actually an assay and a lois assay against a lois assay. Shabbosain the Yontif Asehu. The mitzvah to burn the noisar is not going to be stronger than the mitzvah and the loisas, the asay and the loisas of not doing a sreifa on Yontif. Says the Mishnah, so what are we talking about here? We're talking about a Karban Pesach. What is considered part of the animal, part of the sheep, the goat, that we can consider it as a piece, as a kazayis, that you could go ahead and be part of the Karban. Right? To be a manui. I have 10 pieces of meat available, 10 kazaysim. I have 10 people. 11th guy comes along, he wants to be part of my Karban. Could I give him a bunch of sinews? Could I give him stuff? Whatever it is. Says the Mishnah, here's the rule. If it's edible in a big ox, so all that stuff that's edible in an ox, there's a bunch of sinews, a bunch of different stuff that you could eat. Then you could eat it. It could be part of the goat. Viroshe, knofayim, and goats in the time of the Gemara had wings. Viroshe, knofayim are, we're going to see, the cartilage of the shoulder blades. Vazchusim, also some sort of cartilage. Says the Gemara. Rabba Rami, Tanan, kol hanecha b'shar hagadol yochel b'gdi arach. Whatever this, so this is a brayso. We said in the Mishnah. Sorry, kol hanecha b'shar hagadol yochel b'gdi arach. V'she'eino nechal loy. It seems like if it's not edible in the shar hagadol, in a big ox, it's not part of the Karban. Even say if rosh knofayim v'azchusim v'hani loy misachli b'shar hagadol. They're not edible. These things are not edible. The cartilage of the ox is not edible. The shoulder blade, not edible. So one pshat is el tanoi, v'achi ketani. There's actually machlokes tanoim. Kol hanecha b'shar hagadol yochel b'gdi arach v'she'eino nechal loy. So shita number one is that it has to be one for one. If you could eat it on the ox, you could eat it on a goat. It could be part of the Karban. If not, not. And v'yeshoymrim afroshik nafayim v'aschusim. And then comes shita number two and says not true. Rosh and Afayim Vaschusim are different. Rava Amar Mahin Katani. No, it's an explanation, says Rava. There's no machlokes. Vacha Katani. If I could boil it up and soften it up and make it edible, so now I can just take it, roast the gdi, and it's considered edible. Umayhen, and what are we talking about? Rosh and Afayim Vaschusim. Okay. So according to Rav, no machlokes. The first shita there is a machlokes. Tanya Kava said the Rava, and we have a mefurish of brayso like Rava. If it's edible through cooking, it's a big chiddush. Take an ox. You could sous vide it for 3 days. If you're able to get it to like a really soft, edible thing, then even if you don't do that sous vide on a goat, it's still kosher. Somebody said, "What's a sous vide?" You know what a sous vide is, right? It's a cooking. It's like it's this heating device that keeps the temperature of the water the same exact temperature. So you could. He knows what it is. The chef knows what it is. Anytime you use it, no. We used it on. We had a siyum. That was like 2 years ago by Noam. and we bought these steaks from Spain. They're not as good as American steaks, but we sous vide it. It was butter. You understand? It's butter. I haven't used it since, but we have the sous vide at home. Anybody wants to borrow it, you can try it out. Umain, huh? No, but you could. I'm inviting you to borrow my sous vide. Umain, roshek nofayim v'aschusim. V'gidim arakim nidoinim kebasar. And the really soft sinews are just like meat. So we have over here, let's see if we have it. First of all, we have pictures. We have a lot of pictures today. Zchus, you want to see cartilage? Here. We all recognize this from a chicken. This white thing is zchus. Now, Rashi says on the Mishnah that it also applies to the ribs, that the zchus is on the ribs. So there's an arrow right over here. You can see this is all from Klall. This white part over here. Here are the ribs. They go this way, and this white. That's what's the opposite of perpendicular? No, parallel. Maybe it is perpendicular. This is perpendicular. Okay, fine, perpendicular. Perpendicular to the ribs. This white stuff. Okay. Then what do we have? We have. Do we get to Tnuch Eisen yet? Rashi says, I think, Tnuch Eisen. Yeah, Rashi says Tnuch Eisen. So here's Tnuch Eisen. The cartilage in the ear of the goat. There's a goat right over here. Basnach. Oh, now we're talking about Gidin Arachkin. The soft sinews. Here's a nice soft sinew. This is part of the Korban Pesach. So what is it? In a month and a half from now? A month and a half from now, we're going to need this. Mamish, a month and a half. No. Purim is in 15 days, and a month after Purim. So it's 45 days. This stuff, I hope you don't get stuck with it, but if you're in a group and they're really short on meat, this works. Itmar. Gidin shesoifon lahakshois. Says Rashi, we're talking about the neck sinews. Here they are. These are already pulled from the neck. Here's the neck. They run along the neck this way, and you yank them out. But if the animal was older, it would be tough meat. Right now, today, he's a very young goat. He was just born 8 days ago. He's barely ready to use as a Korban Pesach. Now it's soft. What's the halacha if you have something that's soft today, but going to harden up? If he was alive, if he was lucky enough to live that long, it would harden up. What do? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Omar nimnim aleim ba'Pesach, Rish Lakish Omar ein nimnim aleim ba'Pesach. Rabbi Yochanan says it's no problem. They're edible today. Let's go with it. Rish Lakish says no. Rabbi Yochanan nimnim aleim basar hashtaz linon. Rabbi Yochanan says you go by today. Today it's soft. It is soft. We're going to see at the end of the sugya, Rabbi Yochanan takes it back. He retracts this machlokes. There's no machlokes really. At the end of the day, Rish Lakish wins. Rish Lakish Amar, "Ei nimnim aleim basa b'soif azlinan." I go what's going to happen at the end of the day. Eisvei Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. He asked him a question. The only thing that's edible in a goat is what you have to take its counterpart in an ox and say, okay, is it edible in an ox? Umahen Rosh Knafayim v'aschusim Hanin avagidin shesayvin la'akshes loy. The sinews that are going to harden, not. Amalei, Tanahani, Vuadin Lahanoch. No, not true. Everything's included. But why? So why does the Mishnah grab the shoulder blades and other things, and not these sinews? Hani, my taimo. What's the point? What's the svara behind it? Because I could boil it and soften it up. So the bottom line is you have to look at the halacha. What does it tell me? It's not, only these sinews. These sinews that I could put in a pot, boil it for a while, and soften them up. So anything that you can put in a pot and boil it up is kosher. It's part of the Korban Pesach. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah to Rabbi Oven. I needed to ask Rabbi Avo a question for me. Is it true? The Rabbi Yochanan said that eventually they're going to become hard. Today they are okay. Rabbi Yochanan says they're okay. So it seems like Rabbi Yochanan is going based on what we have right now. Ask the Gemara of a boy Milei Rish Lakish from Rabbi Yochanan. But Rish Lakish once asked Rabbi Yochanan, Oir Haroy Shel Egel Arach. What about the hide of a young calf? Right now, Ma'ushi Tamei. Do we consider it food? So that it becomes Tamei Tumas Oichlin. Right? Food can become Tamei. Non-food object doesn't become Tamei. What is this soft skin on the head of a calf? Is it food or not food? Today it's edible, yeah. But wait 3 months and it becomes hard like a rock. So what do? Is it Mekabel Tumah or not Mekabel Tumah? Rabbi Yochanan said, no, it's not Metama. You see, Rabbi Yochanan says that you go by what happens eventually. Eventually it's going to harden up. So today it's also considered hard, it's not food. Whoever asks you this question doesn't care about his flour, about what he grinds. In other words, he stam talks, he moves his mouth, he's grinding stam, he's asking questions that are not tzimzach, they say in Yiddish. Nish tzimzach. Why? Rabbi Yochanan retracted his shita. What's going on here? Rabbi Yochanan pulls out a Mishnah in Chulin, and it says in the Mishnah that we treat the skin as an edible product. And it's a stam Mishnah, it's anonymous. Anonymous Mishnah means the halach is like that Mishnah. So, says Rabbi Yochanan, great. But at the end of the day, Rabbi Yochanan takes it back. Rabbi Yochanan realized that the Mishnah is a das yachid. That's what he tells Rabbi Shlokish. Rabbi Shlokish got him. So he says, okay, that Mishnah is a das yachid. If it's a das yachid, if it's a one-person shita, so we don't paskin like that one against everybody else. So he already took it back. So in other words, Rabbi Yochanan holds, al takniteni, he says, don't chepe me. Why are you bothering me? I already said that I take it back. I regret it. I retract. And therefore, I hold that it goes by what eventually is going to happen to the skin. Eventually, the skin is going to become tough. So today, it's not food. So it's not food according to Rabbi Yochanan. Don't ask me kashas here. So there's only one shita. Goes according to Rish Lakish. You're asking me a question. This sinew that's in a baby goat that's really soft today, but had he lived another few months, it would become tough. Can it be part of the Korban Pesach? The answer is no. It can't be part of the Korban Pesach. Here, you have these sinews that run across the neck, that are soft in a baby goat, but very tough in an older goat. Do not use this. Rabbi, I'm warning you, in a month and a half from, do not use this in your Korban Pesach. It is no good, because eventually it's going to become tough. What is very interesting, they see from this Gemara, halacha to an esrig. How? An esrig. What if I buy an esrig that's this year, but during Sukkot, inevitably it's going to become smaller. That's what happens to an esrig. They shrink slowly. It's going to become slightly less than the shear. Is that okay or not? They want to prove from here that it goes by the saif. At the end of the day, it's going to be really small. So today I have to consider it small and I can't use it as esrig. There's actually a halacha. The Ramah says that if your schach becomes dry over Yantif, you buy schach that's really nice. You know how they start becoming brown, they start falling into your soup and stuff? The Ramah says that's possible on the first day. Some say don't bring a raya from schach, da-da-da. So bottom line is, the Torah Lishma says you cannot use such an esrig, but the Chazon Ish says a very interesting chap. He says the whole point of a shear in an esrig is not because there's a real shear. It's just to tell us that this esrig is mature. So how do I know it's mature? It has a certain shear. So I saw that it's mature. So now that it's shrunk to a lesser shear, it doesn't take away from its maturity. And maybe I could use it, says the Chazon Ish. All right.
But so far here is not 8 days, so far was in 2 years.
Yeah.
In Esrog is going to get smaller in 2 days. But this is also soft on one way.
What's the nafkamina one? You're saying during the mitzvah. During the mitzvah is going to come. I know, but today is one day. Day one, I have a perfect esrog. Machpatli, who cares that in 3 days from now, during Yontif, I'm asking to you, it's during Yontif, but who cares? But right now, I was mekayim the mitzvah. The rest of the day, it's, by the way, the Rabbana, whatever it is, who cares? I do care. Because right now, I have to be mischashiv according to this sheet if I want to. But you see how they schlep? What? Today it's perfect. Today is perfect, but tomorrow is not going to be good. Do I have to worry about tomorrow? You see how they chap these halachas from different sugyas, whatever. Okay. Very good. Zok the Mishnah. HaShoiver esoetzem Pesach hatar. If the Korban Pesach was tar. So, he broke an etzem. That we had the pasuk. Ve'etzem loy sishbru boy. Issa deraisa to break a bone in a Korban Pesach. Harei loy karban. So you get malchus. It says don't. You do it, malchus. Like any other lav. Aval hamoisir batar. If you leave over meat from a perfectly good Korban Pesach, even though the Torah says don't leave over, we saw already. Did I put it back already? Not good. Okay. If you break a bone from a tamei karban, you don't get arbaim. That we had. We brought down this Mishnah the other day. What is the svara behind? If we could go into the reasoning in the Torah. So the chinuch says that you're sitting there at the Pesach, at the Suda, at the Seder. You shouldn't act like a peasant. How does a king act? A king doesn't sit there and break bones and start chewing bones. It's not proper for Ben Melech. You're a Ben Melech, act like a Ben Melech. Memela says, Reb Shmuel Rozovsky, that would apply to every Shabbos then also. You shouldn't sit there at the Shabbos day going like this. You're a Ben Melech, you're a yeshiva guy, you're Talmud Chacham, you did the daf. Act like a Ben Melech. Just like the Rambam says that a Ben Melech talks a certain way, he doesn't scream, he walks a certain way. So he doesn't chew a bone. It's not that it's usser. It's not like, oh, you chayv malchus. But act like a from yid. From yid doesn't chew. It's an interesting thing to think about. So if you're looking at the reasoning, if you're doing tamei mitzvahs, the chinuch goes into the thing. So based on that, he says we should also be careful. All right. Zok the Gemara. Bishleim moiser bat tahar. I understand if somebody takes a good carbon. Oh, by the way, I have to go back just a second because the Rabbeinu Chananel says here, there's an interesting lashon I want to point out. The Rabbeinu Chananel, it's Matzah Shabbos. We have an extra second there. When he says, you're asking me a question on Rabbi Yochanan Shlakish, you don't care about the flour. So I see this lashon here. He says, if you look in Rabbeinu Chananel on the side, everybody has it in there on the daf. He says, this guy's food, everything, all the pizza he eats, all the steaks he's eating is worthless. Interesting lashon. In other words, if you are a person that's Oved Hashem, you learn Torah, so then whatever you eat goes into a body of person. But you say such shtus, I'm not talking to him, but the Rebbe Chanan says, person that doesn't learn Karai, then the food that he eats, the resources in this world are not meant for him. They're wasted resources. That's what he says. Interesting lashon. Okay, anyway. Bishleima, top of the Gemara. Bishleima moiser batar, this annulos is minat boiker, va'anoiser minat boiker, v'goimer. Ba'a kosav litin asay, acher lois asay, loimar she'ein loika divrei Rabbi Yehuda. What's going on here? Look, it says in the pasuk, very simple. What's loy? A lois asay. A second later it says, va'anoiser this is giving you a positive commandment. This is don't do it, don't leave over. Then all of a sudden it says, va'anoiser menu. What do you do with it? You burn it. Says Rabbi Yehuda, this is called the lav anitik la'aseh. I have a lois aseh, and then I have a solution. The Torah tells me what to do. Just like stealing. You steal, do you get malchus for stealing? No. There's a solution. Give it back. Torah tells you. Anytime the Torah tells you what you should do, then there's no malchus. Why? So Rashi gives two reasons. Either the Torah is telling you specifically what to do, and it's telling you, memela, you don't get the malchus. Fine. Or Rashi says it's not similar to where we learn all of malchus from, the lav of chasima, the lav of muzzling the animal. Okay, fine. I'll go upon him. Basically, so right, the Pshat Rashi, the Torah is telling you, don't give this guy malchus, give him a way out. Tell him what to do. This is the way out. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yaakov Oimer, lo min Hashem uzeh. That's not the reason. Elo mishum dahavli lav she'ein bo ma'isa. You don't give a person malchus when he didn't commit a crime. What did he do? He didn't eat the steak, but he didn't do something to the steak. He just refrained from eating it. Refraining from eating is not a cause to give a guy malchus. Obviously, Rabbi Yehuda holds it is a reason. When a person, Rabbi Yehuda holds, lav she'ein bo maisa, you do get malchus. So he has to come on to another reason why you don't get malchus. All right, lav she'ein bo maisa, vein loiken olav. Elo shoiver bat tomei min alon. How do I know that if I break a bone from a tomei korban pesach, I don't get malchus? Domakrov ve'etzem le'sishberu boy. So we must remember this. Very important. We're doing something that's a record in Shas, perhaps. I don't know. Again, I might be making a record in Shas. Ve'etzem le'sishberu boy. The what? The boy tells me, this ezer is when it's kosher. When the animal's puzzle, I'm not over the ezer. The animal's tummy, not over the ezer. The kosher v'lei b'puzzle. Rabbi Omer, b'bayis echad yochel, ve'etzem le'sishberu boy. It's the same pasuk, but before it says, b'bayis echad yochel. It's telling me, eat it. Kol haroi la'achila yesh bo mishum shviras etzem, b'shem roi la'achila, ein bo mishum shviras etzem. So, Rebbe says something very similar, but a little different. He says it's not that it's kosher and puzzle, it's roi la'achila and not roi la'achila. If I could eat it, then I'm over on the aveira of le'sishberu, you're not allowed to break the bone. If I can't eat it, not. Ask the Gemara, my binayu. So what is the difference between the two? So typically, when a Gemara asks such a question, what is the difference? The Gemara gives something that there's a difference. Sometimes the Gemara gives two differences. You know what the Gemara is going to do today? 8 differences. It's very rare. 8. And each one is because the Manda Omer doesn't hold of the one before. Very simple Gemara, but it's 8. Should I show you real quickly what it looks like? I don't know if this will help. It's not going to help. Oh, I can't even see. Gary, are you still there? Yeah. Do me a favor, zoom in for a second. Because it's green and blue, and I don't know if the Eilim can see. The question is, what is etzem le'sishberu? Where does it apply? Where's the ezer? We have one mandam that says kosher, that the animal has to be kosher in order to be over etzem le'sishberu. The other mandam says, Rebbe says, roi. What we're going to see is that Rebbe is always makel, besides one, according to one. So 7 out of the 8, Rebbe is the one that says there's no ezer. So real quickly, just to run them down, like stop, so you know what we're heading to, because it looks like an agad at the daf. It's one of these daf. It looks, but it's these 8 reasons. Rabbi Yirmiyah says the nafkamina is if the korban pesach became tamei. Rabbi Yosef says the nafkamina is if they had a shasa kosher or not. If there was a minute that was kosher. We went through a lot of these svaras before. Abaye says the nafkamina is in a case on Erev Yantiv, Mibad Yom, on the 14th. But now the easy thing is that Rebbe is always saying that there's no problem of etzem le'sishberu boy. No problem. So Erev Yantiv, you break it, you're not over according to Rebbe. Rabbi says if part of the limb goes out of Yerushalayim, what's Rebbe going to say? Not a problem. Rav Sheshes says no, it's not cooked well. So according to Rebbe, if the animal is not cooked well, you're not over on breaking the bone. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says we're talking about the tail of the sheep. According to Rabbi, you're not over and breaking the tail. If you break a tail, not over. Rav Ashi says there's not a kazayis on it. And according to Rabbi, if it doesn't have a kazayis, you're not over. And Ravina says there's not a kazayis right there where you're breaking it, but there's a kazayis on the next part, lower down on the bone. Let's see inside. We need a shtickle drink for this. Says the Gemara. My benayu. 2 lines from the bottom of Peidal Amud Aleph. Omer Yomi Pesachim b'tumah ika benayu, where the korban Pesach, Klall Yisroel was tamei. Again, Klall Yisroel, the roiv of Klall Yisroel is tamei. What happens when Klall Yisroel is tamei? You bring the korban Pesach anyways. L'man da'oma kosher. Now we're turning to Daf Peidal Amud Beis. Hi, Apostle. Wow. I mean, we went through the sugyas of Tumatchuya, to Mahutra B'tzibur, the Gemara is telling us that if you hold the Cholei Yisrael is tamei and you bring the carbon anyways, at the end of the day, this is a pasul carbon. Okay? It's tumah tchuya. I pushed it off. I tell you to bring it anyways, but you should know the carbon is pasul. Do you eat it? Yes, you eat it. So if you eat it, what's Rebbe going to hold? It's all about eating, Rebbe says. It has to be right to eat. The Tanakhama says it has to be kosher or pasul. So you have an animal that's pasul. If it's pasul, there's no ezer to break a bone. And Rebbe says, but it's edible. It's pasul, but it's edible. So there is an ezer to break a bone. This is the one case out of the 8 that Rebbe is more machmer. And the Gemara says, therefore I don't like it. Because Rebbe is the makel over here. That can't be pshat. We just turned to Pedal Amud Beis, sponsored by Kesher Nafshi.org. Zchus for the struggling kids in pain of Klall Yisroel and for the Refuah Shelayma of all Cholei Yisrael, especially from our MDY family. Please consider joining MDY Tehillim group at tehillim.8mindav.com. Says Gemara, according to Rebbe, it's edible. Interesting, right? It's tumah tchuya. Did you guys think about that? The tumah tchuya, the animal's pasul. You would think, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, bring the carbon, so it's a kosher carbon. No, it's pasul carbon, bring it anyways and eat it anyway. Rav Yosef Amar, ki agavna de kula almei bo mishum shvir sets. And that's not true. Everybody, even Rebbe is going to agree that there's no ezer to break a bone. Why? Because it's pasul. The Rebbe like kulikasi. Rebbe's shita is more makel than the Tanakhama. He's going to say, if the Tanakhama says it's breaking a bone, he's going to say, you're not even breaking a bone. Vaya pasalu. And this guy is pasul. So So we're in the second pshat. Rav Yosef says, the shaila is like this. You did all the avodas. You did the shchita, kabbalah, hilacha, zrika. Everything is great. So there was a moment in time that you were able to eat this carbon pesach. Had you taken a bite out of it right after zrika, you're yaitza. V'nifsal. And then the carbon pesach became tamei afterwards. That's the nafkamina. Omar kosher. According to the Tanakhama, this is a kosher carbon. If it's kosher, kosher equals ezer to break a bone in it. Hakosher. But according to Rebbe, there's no ezer to break the bone because right now you can't eat it. It's all about eating, not about being kosher. So each one is going to say, well, the guy before me is wrong. That's why there's 8. That's not true. Everybody has to agree that this is not edible. And it's not edible, so if it's kosher, my time at the end, right now, this carbon is pasul. If this carbon is pasul right now, Tanakhama has to agree, no is to break the bone. Could you break the bone, says Abaya, on the 14th? This carbon pesach, I shechted it 2:30 in the afternoon, Erev Pesach. Is it a kosher carbon pesach? Yes. Could I eat it? No. You have to wait until the Seder night. So if I break the bone, Erev Pesach, according to Rebbe, I'm not over anything. Meisvei, Rebbe Yomer, here it's Rebbe himself. Nimnim al moyach sheberoish. If you want to participate in the carbon pesach, you can use the brain of the animal. Nimnim al moyach sheberoish. Ve'inimnim al moyach shebekulas. Rashi says, why could you use the brain? This is not bone marrow. Over here it's a play on words. It's the same word. Moyach means marrow, but it means brain. We're talking about the brain of the animal, not the marrow of the animal. Because I could get to the brain of the animal without breaking any bones. I'll take a syringe, whatever, I'll schlep it out somehow with a stick. I'll go through his nose, says Rashi, without breaking anything, I'll extract the brain. So, however, the thigh bone, there's a lot of meat in there, so I could get a bunch of people to join my group. But the only way to get to it, unfortunately, is breaking it. You're not allowed to break it. The Gemara says, Rashi just describes how, through the nose. I could take the brain out without breaking it. But if you're telling me that breaking the bone, Erev Pesach, is okay, so You shechted the Korban Pesach. It's Erev Pesach now. I have zero ezer to break a bone. So what's the problem? Break the thigh bone, extract the marrow from it, and now I have more people that can join my Korban Pesach. According to you also, you should take a coal, put it on top of the bone. So what the Gemara is saying here is, you're not allowed to break a bone. You're not allowed to make a break. You're allowed to make a hole. So I take a little coal, put it on top of the bone, I'll create a hole in the bone, and I'll extract the marrow. And then I could have more people in my group. It's fine. If you, sorry about something, you're allowed to make a hole in a bone. Is another halacha. You're allowed to cut sinews. There's no, cutting sinews is not cutting a bone. The ezer is cutting bones, breaking bones, but you're allowed to cut sinews. So how come not? The problem is, if you're going to start making holes with coals, you know what might happen? It'll break the bone. You're not going to make a perfect hole. It'll make a crack in the bone. That's also. Because at the end of the day, your coal might burn some of the bone marrow, and that's also to let it, don't do anything to it, that it becomes nice and then have to burn it, that's one thing. But to go ahead and put a coal on it and burn the bone marrow, that's masid biyadayim, that's doing it with your hand, and that's also dilma achal nura, the fire was going to eat up, it's going to eat up the marrow. Says Abaya, the same svara applies. You ask me, if you are right that you could break a bone, why didn't you break a bone erev Yom? I'm concerned that if you do it before Yontif, you might do it after Yontif. Rapapa Amar. He argues with the Abaya, Kol Kai Gavno, Kol Amal Yishbim Shmashvir Sa'etzim. At the end of the day, if you do what you're saying, said Abaya, you're breaking bones erev Yontif, Yesh Mishum Shvir Sa'etzim. Everybody agrees it's not true, you're over. My time, today, right now on the 14th, you're right, you can't eat it. But if you wait a few hours, it becomes a carbon that you could eat. So let's also do it right now. Hello. So what's the shaila? The whole machlokes is, where are we holding here? We're holding the chart right over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4. Wow. Okay. We got to the purple one. If you're asking why the X is yellow and the checks are blue, that's because I tried to do the X's in red. That's what I have. But it didn't work very well on this red guy. So I had to change it up. Then I tried to change the Kitzer. The blue didn't work on blue. Now it works. No. We start 10 minutes late, so the guys from Manchester and London and all those guys can join us, Gary. This is the last, well, maybe next week we'll go back so that you could...
Next week, 6 o'clock.
Gary's very busy Motzei Shabbos. Hello, be'ever shiyotzah miktzosik umiflagi. The limb went out a little bit. Rabbi Yisai, I just want to tell you real quickly a story of Hashgacha Pratis. It's the slightest Hashgacha Pratis, but I saw it in Hashgacha Pratis. What happened was, I went to the store. I told you the story. On Friday, I came and I said, "Where's the bone?" I was very disappointed. I couldn't find the bone. I wanted to do show and tell with the bone. Here's a bone. Now, why was I disappointed? Because I spent time on it. I went to the butcher shop, and I made myself crazy to remember to bring the bone. So what happened was, I'll tell you a story of Hashgacha Pratis. Reuven Shade, as I'm going to share, Reuven Shade, who edits the 8-minute video, he tells me, do me a favor, before you go to share, come to my house, give me the video that you recorded the night before. I want to edit it. Instead of coming to share, I want to edit it. So I stop in his house. He lives 2 floors below me. Stop there, and Josh, what's going on? You don't like the Maisa? It's during the Maisa. He takes breaks during the Maisa. This is the first time since we started share 3 years ago, a guy actually snored out loud in share. This is a boring story. Anyway, listen to this Maisa, Josh. Listen to this mordechai Maisa. The Torah part, you were wide awake. Wide awake. It's not even such a great Maisa. I'm just saying it's in the minute part, you can see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hand. So I go to his house, I give him the video. I come to share, I don't have my bone. What happened was, I left the bone by his front door. He said, I came outside, I found the bone in a bag. We're like, who would leave me a bloody bone in a bag? So, on the way back from Shir, I climb up the stairs, go to his house, I grab the bone. I go to my house. Now, this is very important because I took the bone, I didn't notice anything. Everything's good. But I go, put on my tefillin, come down the stairs. As I come down the stairs, what's going on here? There's blood everywhere. The bone was leaking, but I didn't realize that until I came back down. So there's a whole puddle of blood in front of Reuven's house. So what do I want to tell you? And then, by the way, when I gave him the video, I said, Reuven, I don't think you should do the video now. You should come to Shir, do the video. Don't worry about it. Do it later. So he came to Shir. So Maisa happened like this. The first time ever that he asked me to stop by his house before Shir, and it didn't even do anything for him because at the end he came to Shir. And because I left the bone there, my Gemara is still, I love my Gemara. I'm very, very makbid on my Gemara. I don't even have a single ear on the top of the Gemara. Had I brought the bone here, I wouldn't have noticed, just like I didn't notice when I came all the way home. I would have taken the blood everywhere. So the Maisa, he saved me. That's pratis. But today we do have a bone. I got to show you. This is bone from cholent. And this, it's coming apart already. It's not my cholent. Somebody gave me a bone from his cholent. If you look closely, I don't want to open it, but if you look closely, this is the part that we're talking about. This is the part that you could throw out, and this marrow part, that's what we're talking about. This is edible. He said it gets hard once it cools off. Okay, here it is. We're going to use it soon. All right. No, so we're holding it came out a little bit. Here's the wall of Yerushalayim, a little bit out, a little bit in. Half the hand is outside of Yerushalayim, half the hand is inside Yerushalayim, according to Rashi. We're looking at the part that's inside Yerushalayim. The hand that's inside Yerushalayim is kosher meat. And if it's kosher, what? I cannot break the bone. Because if I break the bone, it's going to break part that's kosher. But according to the Manda Omer that says that it has to be edible, Rebbe, it's not edible, the part that's not out. So Tais asked the obvious question, are you going to go by the part that's outside and call it not edible? If it's not edible, it's not kosher. You're going to go according to the part that's inside, so it's edible and it's kosher. Which one is it? Okay. Doesn't really answer. Kivisanyo, Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broiko, Oimer, Ever shiyotza mektsosoi ushvaroi, ein boy mishum shviras ha'etzem. So, a limb that goes out of Yerushalayim, and you break it, so you're not over on breaking a bone. In other words, Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broiko goes according to Rebbe, who Rebbe says that since it's not roy lachila, there's no problem of breaking it. I don't like your pshat because everybody agrees that. Oh, I forgot to show you. I spoke about the yellow and the blue, but I forgot to tell you what it does. If you're going to be using this chart, it's telling you that breaking the bone is not a problem, or is a problem. Rav Papa, for instance, Rav Shesha says everybody agrees that what you just did here is okay. It's not breaking a bone. Check. Everybody agrees that what you did over here is a problem. That's why I put checks and X's. So they're saying the guy in front of them, the Amoyer in front of them, is a problem. Is not a problem. Sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it's not, according to the check. Okay, I just threw that in. You see? So we're holding by Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says, Ein boy. Ein boy means it's not a problem. You're not over, it's a check. You're not over breaking a bone. The high aver hapasalu. This aver that came out is considered pasal. El shvir setzim bina ikebenayu. If it's not cooked, that's the nafkimina. The what? Madam kosher hakosheru. Umadam relachila hashta einay relachila. According to Rebbe, right now, since it is not cooked well, it's not edible, I break its bone, I'm not over. Rav Nachman Yisrael says, what are you talking about? My taima, the chazil achila. Why? So what if it's not cooked? Throw it back into the grill and it'll be cooked. I'm going here in red, I'm going with the tail, he says. The tail. The animal is 100% kosher. A tail is not royal achila. Why can't I eat the tail? It goes in the mizbeach. Anything that goes in the mizbeach is considered not royal achila. And if I break the tailbone, I'm not over according to Rebbe. According to Tanakama, I'm over. It's not a problem. Everybody agrees it goes in the mizbeach. That's not considered edible. The machlokes is on an ezer that doesn't have a kazayis. Lemandam kosher, hakosher hu. Lemandam achila, binan shir achila veleka. I need royal achila. I need edible. It's not edible. I don't have a kazayis. It's not edible. Not edible. I could break the bone. I'm not over. Ravina Omar, and finally, 8 pshatim later, Ravina Omar kol kai gavno lesbe mishum shviras etzim. Everybody agrees that if there's no meat on the bone, you're not over. By the way, marrow is considered meat, so it doesn't matter, inside, outside, that we'll see. I don't know, here's a picture, I stole it from a different place, but the bottom line is here, the meat is over here, the bone is over here, and I break it over here. Am I over or not? That's the shaila. There is meat somewhere else. A lot of meat. Look, there's more than kazayis. But it's somewhere else, not where I'm breaking it. If it's kosher, I'm over, I'm breaking the bone. But according to Rebbe, that it has to be something that I'm eating, edible. It has to have the meat right where I'm breaking it, and over here it's not. Says the Gemara, Tanya ka'arba minayu. I have a brisa that says exactly like 4 out of the 8. Very, very posh at the Sanya. Rebbe Yomer, this is Rebbe. Bringing that pasuk again of etzem loy sishburu boy, right? Etzem loy sishburu boy. It says it says it has to be edible. That's where he gets his whole shita from. Right lachila. Etzem loy sishburu boy. Ala kosher. He even uses the lashon of the Tanakama. You are chayiv on kosher, not pasul. What does it mean? So he goes into the scribe. Let's see if you could chap which of the 8. 4 out of the 8, maybe even 5 out of the 8. Hoysel shasa kosher, v'nifsal b'shasa chila. Who says shasa kosher? Right over here, Rav Yosef. So it's mafurish in the brisa, Rav Yosef. He didn't make it up. You see, these Amoraim didn't make it up. They took it right out of the brisa. It has to do with having a moment that you were able to eat it. So yesh bo shir achila. Who's that? You need a shir. That's right over here. Kazayis. Now it could be both. It could be Ravina, that it says kazayis over here but not over there, or kazayis. Could be both of them. So now really we have 3. That's a bonus. We have 5, not 4. Who says roilim mizbeach? The tail. Alyo. It's right over here. Nachman Yitzchak talks about roilim mizbeach or not. And finally, Rebbe says that if you can put it on the mizbeach, it's not roy for you, it's roy for the mizbeach. There's no breaking of bone. B'shas achila. Now, who says shas achila? Shas achila is right over here. If you eat it erev Pesach, it's not a time of eating. You're not over. Shas achila is mishum shvius hatzim. Shlem shas achila ev mishum shvius hatzim. Itmar. Ever she'ein olav kazayis basam mokim zev yesh olav kazayis basam mokim acher. Here, you have a little bit of meat on this side, but not on this side. Rabbi Yochanan Omar. So, what is this shaila basically? This is the same shaila that we had before between Ravina and Ravashi. Do you need the kazayis to be in one place, not in one place? That's basically the mimicking. This is a shaila. This is the machlokes that we had already. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, yesh b'mishum shvius hatzim. it's considered, doesn't matter. Even though there's no meat where you're breaking, it's still considered breaking a bone. Reb Shimon ben Lakish Amar, Emer Reb Shimon Setzim. Ezer Reb Yochanan Shlakish. Ve'etzem l'sis berubah, you shouldn't break a bone. Echad etzem she'shalav kezayis basar, echad etzem she'en b'elav kezayis basar. Now, what does it mean? If it doesn't have meat, it does have meat. My love kezayis basar. Eli Dyckman love kezayis basar Klall. It can't mean that there's zero meat on it, right? Because if there's zero meat on a bone, what are you allowed to do with the bone that has zero meat? You throw it in the garbage. There's no problem breaking it. There's no ezer. No, so it's a kasher shlokish, no. Amalei loy pei hey Amud Aleph. Hachi gamar. Echad etzem sheyesh alav kezayis basar mibachutz. Ve'echad etzem sheyesh alav kezayis basar mibachutz. Yesh kezayis basar mifnim. Where's that bone? Here. Stop. Why not? Whether the meat is on the outside, whether the meat is on the inside of the bone, the marrow. Ve'yesh alav kezayis basar mifnim b'mokim shviro. That's it. I'm not allowed to break the bone even if there's zero meat on the outside, but the meat is the marrow on the inside. Then you're also not allowed to break. So the bone that you're allowed to break is a bone that doesn't have any marrow on the inside. And nothing, no meat on the outside. That's a bone that I'm allowed to break. Have a good Voch, a freilich Voch, a mazel Voch. We'll see you tomorrow in 10 hours. No shir amalis on Motzei Shabbos. Why? I have no idea. Because Nachum Seltzer's not here. Huh? Oh, Shmooly, I love the beard, Shmooly. Huh? What do you mean, oh, sir? Hold on. Oh, you're talking about during the week? No, it's also to eat the bone. You're allowed to break, but to eat it from it. That's what I'm saying. No. During the week, you're allowed to. Yeah. The smaller bones, maybe even ribs. I don't know. I don't know. There are such bones. A good Voch boy say, huh?
When you were in your good in Far Rockaway, did you know Rabbi Shmuel Bloom, my cousin?
Rabbi Shmuel Bloom. Sounds so familiar.
He was the executive director of the Zchus.
Oh, I know him now. I know him. Yeah. That's how I know. Really? I met him. Where did I say? I just met him. Not just, but yeah. Oh, I think he was on a mentor's mission or something. He's a gewaldige guy. He's like a very. Maybe that's where I knew him from. Okay, now it's all coming together. Was hat sich boy say? Shkoich to you.
We have marathon every week in the Cholei.
You do? Supposedly it's very good. Supposedly it adds a lot of flavor. Yeah. How are you?
Baruch Hashem, how you doing?
You ready? You have shots? What do you have?
But I had Corona.
You had Corona?
Got the certificate. Yeah, you get a green passport with Corona.
Beautiful. So you're gonna come? You're gonna come every day? You're gonna try?
It's difficult. I get my son to work, to school at like 7.
The wife.
I'm out every night, so.
All right, kids. Whenever you can.